Michigan playing a whistle. Juwan Howard slipped over Lonnie early and shrugged as if to say, I'm sorry, I didn't want that to happen. Juwan right now is telling his guys, settle down. That's going to be the whistle.
All right, welcome in. Good evening, almost good morning on this Thursday, the 7th. Dennis Fithian with you here on the Michigan Basketball Postgame Live. We are on with you after every Michigan basketball game and football game. Tonight, not what you were hoping for if you were a Michigan fan. One of the worst games in the history of Michigan hoops. You start seeing things like that, and it sounds pretty, like maybe over the top. But I don't know if take a look at it. I mean, it was worse than the final score indicated, 87 to 62. It was a boat race. Arizona State jumped out, got the first bucket, never looked back. They were blowing them out in the first half. Watching the game, it was what Michigan got down by as many as 23 in the first half, ended up being down 18 at the break, and it was just a really bad performance. Really bad performance. One of the worst performances, like I said, it's one of the worst performances ever in Michigan basketball history. Now, so you've watched Michigan 2 straight days here, and yesterday I sat here and was like, man, very encouraging. Well, a lot of things to like, went up and down the roster and all the things and all the positives, and it was almost all positive from yesterday, and then it's completely different tonight. Almost everything was negative. I DVR the games. I already deleted it. There was no reason. What am I going to do? Go back and watch that. So, I mean, as much as, I think it's easy to say, as much as you might have been encouraged by this team and their prospects moving forward after last night, I think you take, if that was a step forward, you're discouraged. And I think you take 2 steps back after watching tonight. I don't know. The good news is just one game, you get their attention. I don't know. You just start thinking, you watch, you watch the team play, and nobody played well. Hunter Dickinson, we know what he's about, but when the Hunter Dickinson wasn't on the floor, this team really, they really struggled with any kind of flow, identity, any kind of continuity, just any kind of semblance of something. Like when you watch, you don't need me to sit down, or you have people maybe they'll break it down and say, hey, here's where the ball's going, this and that. But if you just watch basketball, you can understand by watching a team, if they're cutting, they're sharing the ball, they're playing hard, they're getting good shots, those kind of things. And the Michigan wasn't doing any of those things. And, it would go into Hunter, and, Dickinson didn't have a very good game himself, but when he wasn't out there, it was a lot of ISO ball and, guys it seemed like just looking for their own. And, they didn't seem like they were running a lot of sets. And sometimes, that's okay. If that's the way, you're bringing your players in saying, hey, just get out there and play. Certainly look for your teammates and all that. But, you can go and ISO and look for your own shot. But when it's not working, that's when you need to get that whiteboard over there, and you need to start drawing some things up, and you need to put that guy in the corner, and you need to say, pass it over here, and you need to get a cutter over there. And they weren't doing any of those kind of things. So, and they were worse on defense. I don't know. That's, I don't know. Like you say, it was really bad on offense, but it was really bad on defense. They didn't guard at all. And, going back to the first 2 games, previous to this Legends Classic, the game against Eastern, I came away, saying the 2 things for me that I wanted to see more of moving forward was Michigan guarding individually and then being able to shoot the 3-pointer. And they shot well in the second half last night. They didn't shoot at all. And then defensively, they just couldn't guard Arizona State at all. I mean, they just didn't let Arizona State quicker. to the spots, played with much more energy. I didn't like, all the things that you might say about like what did maybe Michigan had, maybe went out and they had a bunch of pasta or something before the game because they looked like they were sleepy. They looked like they weren't ready to go. When the ball went up right away, it was like, wow, look at Arizona State, man, right off the, right from the jump. Michigan didn't have it. So I don't know, like, you want me to try to explain that. It was really poor performance. I'll say it for the second time here. It reminded me of, back when I used to cover the team when I worked in Ann Arbor in the Brian Ellerby era, where, there were some really bad teams. And this tonight, Michigan looked like a really bad team. Now, making the flush motion, burn the tape, move on. Let's see where they are at on Sunday. I think they're lucky. Michigan basketball is right now that the football team is so good. And this was on so late. People will just look at the score and just chalk it up like, hey, it's November. Let's get to the weekend and watch some football. And I get that. And I hear that. This team comes right back, and it's going to be after, Saturday evening. It's going to be on to Ohio State. And then Michigan just so happens to play Ohio in basketball coming up on Sunday night. So the whole Brady Hoke thing of, of not calling Ohio State, calling them Ohio. The basketball team is playing Ohio. You get everybody to cut in there and start calling Ohio State, Ohio, and, that back and forth. And, it's fun. It can be a little fun. Some people think it's nonsense. I kind of like when the fans call Ohio State, Ohio. I don't do it myself, but yeah, I kind of like it, honestly. All right. If you wanted to get some feedback, you can. It's always available for you live after the game. If you're listening to this after the fact, I got to say, look, and if you've even gone this far, you are a complete diehard Michigan fan, and I appreciate you, so if you do have a thought or two, I've gone through it. I mean, I could put up the numbers. I do have some feedback, and this is what my feedback looked like. I started taking some notes on the game, down 18.5. Didn't like the offense or defense, and there was really nothing else to put on there. The box score at the break didn't look very good. Michigan was not shooting well at all. 2 of 9 from downtown. They got nothing from the bench. Buffkin, who was so good the night before, a goose egg at the break. Right down the line. I can take that logo out. See TW2. Bagel at the break. Dickinson had 8 points, and Jet had 10. And then for the game, it's not fun to look at. I guess I broke off the total points there, but you see the shooting percentage: 4 for 22 from downtown, 33.9% from the field. As you might expect, none of that's good. None of it was pretty, and that's where we're at. Let's look at some of the comments and what people have to say. Treppa watched this game, and he says, were they overconfident from the impressive victory the night before? I don't know. It looked like maybe they went out on the town, like maybe they hung out in Brooklyn, and I don't know where they went and what they did, but they weren't ready to play basketball. Maybe I got overconfident. I don't know. Like, it'd be interesting to see what Juwan Howard has to say. Here's Z, who says, no, they just didn't play very hard. Arizona State was picked to be 7th out of 12 teams in the Pac-12, and they already lost to Texas Southern. Yeah, Z-Man, I don't have any. I'm not trying to paint some kind of rosy picture with Michigan here. They got worked over. They got lambasted. There was nothing positive to take out of this game except that it was just one game. And I don't know if this is going to play out or not. If you were watching the game, I happen to just be running some tape at the end of the game just to get a little, 10 or 15 second run into the show tonight. I thought, of listening to the final couple seconds would provide some of that audio and then lead into the post game here. But as soon as I hit record and Arizona State, the shot clock was off, the Sun Devils could have just run out the clock. The guy was just dribbling it out. He was into the front court, the player for Arizona State. The game was over. Michigan came in and stole the ball. And so the next thing you know, they're going down and they're making a layup. And then, all right, Michigan did that. Didn't seem like Bobby Hurley or anybody was getting too heated about it. But then Arizona State inbounds the ball. And then Michigan down 25 points with 5 seconds to go. They throw a hard double team at the player in the backcourt. And so I'm watching the game and I see Bobby Hurley and Juwan Howard, the two, when, the Fab Five, it was, Michigan and Duke, nothing bigger than those two when they played. I mean, the clash of the Blue Devils and the Wolverines. And so the old coaches there meeting at half court. I'm looking at this moment and watching them shake hands, and I got to see Juwan Howard, flip his head around, and he's making, and if you're watching, Juwan Howard's like, oh my God, what's going on? And he's looking over there and you see Hurley kind of blew it off, but they took exception to Michigan not playing like I hate to go back to the Wisconsin game last year, but and that's the kind of stuff that went down with Wisconsin. Remember Wisconsin, they were leading the country in fewest amount of turnovers. So when Michigan was in the front court and pressing late in the game, a guard for Whiskey called a timeout, which pissed Juwan Howard off. And, that could have been the matchstick. There could have been other things, talking on the way up, whatever it was. But that was part of it. There's the unwritten rules and the etiquette stuff at the end of the game, and Michigan didn't follow it at the end of this one. Now you can say, play to the whistle, play hard all the way through. That's nothing. And I don't know, whatever. But, Michigan needs to be a little bit more cognizant of those kind of things since they, had the big dust up last year. They don't want another one of those going on. Let me just play from ESPN. I have the final minute here. You can listen to it and how it sounded with the commentators. This is the last 40 seconds of the ball game tonight.
You may not love that. Michigan playing a whistle. Juwan Howard slipped over Bobby Hurley and shrugged as if to say, I'm sorry, I didn't want that to happen. Juwan right now is telling his guys, settle down. That's going to be the whistle. It is a thorough beatdown for Arizona State. 87-62 the final score. The Sun Devils take the Legends Classic Championship. There's a little bit of a tussle after the whistle.
Tussle?
Understandably, some exception taken to some Michigan Seals in the closing seconds. It is the largest margin of victory against a ranked opponent in Arizona State program history. It is a wire-to-wire beatdown of Michigan as the Sun Devils win 2 games in 2 days here in Brooklyn. For John Crispin, our crew, Kevin Brown saying so long for Brooklyn. The ascent journey to the PFL.
All right. Kevin Brown and John Crispin there. They're taking some exception. Wait a second. What do you insult to injury? And so you have some of those things that happen at the end of games sometimes. So Michigan needs to be better than that, considering what happened last year. So I don't know. There was young guys coming in to steal. I don't know if Howard even gets Howard to be ticked off. I'm sure I'll give it to the report. If a reporter after the game asked Juwan Howard, because Juwan Howard will be mad about it. He should ask him. I don't know if they will. At his next news conference, he should be asked about that. We'll see if any reporter wants to. That's not something Juwan Howard wants to deal with. Hey, he's the head coach. You have to deal with it. Ask the question. Like, hey, I don't think you need to ask it like, hey, Juwan, considering, how you were suspended for the last 5 games of the year last year because of a on-court fight in the handshake line at the end of the game with what transpired in the last few seconds. How did you see, what went down Forget the other, 39 minutes, in the 39, 30. What about the last 30 seconds of the game and how your team performed there, etiquette wise or whatever? So I don't ask it like that. Just say, hey, Juwan, what happened at the end of the game? And let's see what he says. But could be something, could be nothing. We'll see what Juwan had to say. Account 22 saying he's glad it's not March. Account 22 saying Frankie taunting from the bench with 4 points. Yeah, well, for Frankie, he is able to. I don't know. You say taunt. Like it was a taunt in your face all night long. Count 22. Let's be honest. I mean, if it was a tight game or if Michigan had one single thing to be positive about, you'd say, hey, you know what? Stick your tongue out at Frankie or whatever else, even from the fan base. But Frankie's allowed to do what he wants tonight. To the victor goes the spoils. Okay, I'll see you. I was going to say tomorrow, but we still got a few minutes left in today. See you tomorrow at 1 o'clock, 13 hours, Michigan football, and good afternoon, Michigan football and basketball. We'll see if anything comes in those final few seconds. And then Saturday after the Michigan-Illinois game, and then Sunday after the Michigan-Ohio game, and it's on. So thanks for joining us. The final, Michigan falls to 3-1 on the year, 87-62. They lose by 25. They'll play again. I've got it down as a 7:30 start. Michigan at the Chrysler Center, bringing in the Ohio Bobcats out of the Mid-American Conference. Thanks for watching and participating, and we'll talk with you soon